Wait, give me a second. I just unmuted
Okay.
you and I'm gonna start the recording.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start the Thursday, February 8th meeting of the Santa Cruz Libraries Facilities Financing Authority. Can we have roll call?
Director Lago. Here. Director Palacios.
Here.
Director Goldstein.
Here.
Director Schmidt. Here.
Okay, we have a forum. Do we have any additional materials?
No, we don't.
Okay. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We don't.
Okay, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? None. Is there any public comment online?
At this moment, there's no public comment online.
Okay, so then we'll go to the library director report.
Someone just said that they would like to comment.
Okay,
Would you like to speak? Allow you to speak, Daniel Stonebloom?
Sure, I'd like to offer a comment. Can you hear me okay?
yes, we hear you.
Okay, wonderful. This is my first attending of the meeting. I signed up having walked into the Aptos Library's opening. Very impressive. I have some questions about the Historical Society's contributions in the cabinets and the displays specific to Indigenous and Native artifacts as presented. I have serious concerns about the use of past tense in referring to Indigenous peoples. As additionally, there are no mentions of the local tribal affiliation, including the word Aptos. There's apparently no Amamutsin representation nor participation in the display of these Indigenous artifacts. Things are misattributed. They come from the private collections of local white people. I'm not sure how those artifacts came into a collection, or certainly how they came into display in this way. This is just an example of kind of an easy default, but a culturally insensitive display.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments?
I do not see any more public comments.
Okay. We'll go ahead now and move to the library director's report.
Thank you, Chair Palacios. I've submitted it in writing. I just want to point out, we continue to struggle with power outages across the county, and we've had to keep Boulder Creek closed more often than any of us would like. There is a project going forward. It is noted in the report to provide a generator, thanks to the support of the county for that. But we are in the process of making that purchase and then the installation. Unfortunately, that won't happen before the end of this winter period. So, but I just wanted to make a note of that.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from the board on the library director's report? None? There's no action on this. So I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Are there any questions or comments on the consent calendar from the board? There's none. Are there any public comments? None in the room. Is there any public comments on the consent calendar online?
Yeah, Judy has sent in a comment saying, consent calendar question. I'm sorry, I cannot really understand the info. How much money is left from Measure S?
Okay. Thank you for that comment question. Any other comments?
No other comments online.
Okay. We normally don't respond to comment right now, but is there an easy answer to that, or is that more complicated on Measure S? Okay, we can ask staff to to provide that information at a later meeting or to the person who commented if we have their address. Otherwise, we can bring it to the next meeting. Okay, with that, we'll have an action on the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And we'll move on to general business. Oh, good. This is the annual election of the board chair and the board vice chair. And staff recommends that we elect the calendar year 2024 board chair. As recommended would be the city of Capitola, and the vice chair would be city of Santa Cruz. Any questions or comment from the board on this item? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Anything online?
No comments online.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I nominate Capitola for chair and City of Santa Cruz for vice chair for 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we have a new chair and vice chair. So does that mean you take over now or?
Well, I think you
next-
got it all the way through this one.
Okay, next time. Okay, the traffic almost saved me. Right. Okay, project updates and comments by board members. Anything to report on board? Okay, there's nothing there. So then our item 9 is our scheduled upcoming meetings. We have a next meeting on May 2nd at 9 a.m. at the Scotts Valley Ranch Library. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting and go into our Library Joint Powers Authority meeting. Okay, we'll call to order the Santa Cruz City County Libraries Joint Powers Authority board meeting for Thursday, February 8th. We'll start with roll call.
Director Lago,
Here.
Director Palacios,
Here.
Director Goldstein,
Here,
and Director Schmidt.
Here.
Okay, are there any additional materials?
There are none.
Okay, as a report out from closed session of January 11th, 2024.
so I think that's probably us.
What?
I think
That's me?
yeah.
Okay, maybe you can go ahead and do that. I'll designate.
Okay, so the board met on January 20, what did we say, 24th, 2024, to discuss, employment matters related to the library director, took no reportable action.
Okay, very good. That's the report out from closed session. Are there any additions and deletions to agenda?
There are written comments that were added to the packet after it was first published. You've all received an updated agenda packet. And so at the very end of the agenda, there are several comments that were sent in by the public.
Okay,
So that would be an addition.
okay. We'll move on to public comment. Any public comment in the room? Any public comment online?
Yes, someone is asking Jesse Silva would like to comment on the updated cost benefit analysis contract for administrative services. I assume that means she wants to speak.
That's, that's on the agenda later.
Oh,
So this would be public comment for anything not on the agenda.
gotcha. So Jesse, if you heard that, there will be a moment and time later for you to comment on it. She says she'll wait.
Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and move on to item 6, report by the library director.
Board members, I have submitted it in writing. I just wanted to mention, we had planned for some time a big event for the Aptos opening. Unfortunately, because of the warnings and the advisories to be off the roads, We canceled the public event, but we did leave the doors open and staff agreed to stay at the branch. And for those who maybe didn't get the message, and we welcomed hundreds of very happy patrons who came in the door for the opening of the Aptos Library. It's also been without power for parts of this week. We lost power toward the end of that day, but we stayed open until 5. So it was still a very successful opening, even though we had some serious storm issues to contend with.
Soft opening.
But now it's a soft opening, yes.
Are there any plans to do a more formal opening?
We are looking at some dates so that we can really celebrate with the community, and we'll be sending that out in the near future.
Okay, that sounds great. Any other comments or questions on the library director report? Okay, if there's no action on this item, so we'll move on to the report of friends from the Santa Cruz Public Libraries.
Hi, my name is Janice O'Driscoll. I'm president of the board of the Friends of the Santa Cruz Public Library. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the collaborations, very successful collaborations that have been going on. Actually, mostly this month and last month. As Eric said, we had a very successful soft opening. Thanks to the work of the library staff and the work of the Aptos friends who came roaring in when we found out that people had decided a closure didn't mean they were going to come into the door. And that collaboration with the Aptos chapter has been so successful. You'll remember probably that they raised $490,000 toward the wonderful facility that we have now. And I want to point out the Aptos chapter because at the very same time this branch is opening, they are running their very successful annual Our Community Reads. That's going on right now. It is almost every session is full. We had the author of the book, which is the monk of Mocha, Dave Eggers, and the Yemeni partner, Mokhtar, zoomed in from Dubai to Santa Cruz to a full house. And we had this wonderful conversation. It's been amazing because not only are people learning about coffee, but they're learning about the Yemeni situation because it's Yemeni coffee. There's a lot of people interested. There are many cultural activities going on, lots of music, lots of film, lots of history. All of us are learning more about Yemen. And nobody would have guessed that violence in Yemen would be going on now, but people are taking the opportunity to learn. And so the collaboration with chapters like the Aptos chapter has been very successful and very important. And we've had another wonderful collaboration at the end of 2023, from the middle of November to the end of December. The Friends were selected as one of 65 local nonprofits to participate in Santa Cruz Gives. Santa Cruz Gives is a fundraising opportunity for nonprofits who present a big idea to the Santa Cruz Gives board, and then in this case, 65 different nonprofits were chosen. We were chosen. And our big idea was to support Boundless Minds, which is library service to the county correctional facilities, all 4 of them. So it's Judy Hall, it's the Women's Center, it is Main Jail, and it is Roundtree. And we just discovered $20,783.17 to enhance that program. Service to the incarcerated has been going on for several years. When I was on staff, I got to participate in that. And this money will help cement the partnership with Cabrillo College. Cabrillo College has a program where people can, while they're still in one of the institutions, can still start working on their college work. We are going to be able to support that work by giving books to some of the students who have been accepted in that program. And we will be able to enhance things at UP Hall and all of the ongoing programs in the release facility. So that's very exciting. That's a wonderful collaboration. And I do want to also update you on another exciting collaboration. After this meeting, we're going to have a meeting of the downtown branch planning committee. We're planning the capital campaign for downtown. So that this is the point at which we are forming a strategy. We don't have decisions yet, but we're taking in all the information. We're figuring out what we're going to do. We're going to raise $2 million, and we're going to do it. And it's going to take us through 2025. So we are working on that plan. It's another collaboration because we have people from other chapters in our library service area, people from the community in Santa Cruz. Everyone's working for the downtown branch because it's the hub of the system. It's not only the local branch for the city of Santa Cruz, but it is a foundation for every other branch. So a lot of people are involved. Another collaboration. There's one more collaboration I want to talk about. Some of you may know that in November, our former executive director, Bruce Cotter, developed some very serious health problems. They involve many hospitalizations. He's in a rehab facility right now. He has not improved yet, so he has had to leave the organization to concentrate on his health. And we wish him well. He's in good spirits. He does have a long road ahead of him, but we are all very hopeful. We were very fortunate. On our board, we had a woman who had the commitment to public libraries, the skills in administrative services and management to participate in a nonprofit organization, and the willingness to do it. We are thrilled with her. She has already made efficiencies. She's jumped right in. She started January 2nd, and it's amazing what she has accomplished. I want you to meet her. Here she is. And she comes to us most recently from UCSD. So on January 2nd, she resigned from the board and stepped into this role, and she's doing a fabulous job. And I want you to meet.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be in such a fabulous space to meet with you. And it's an exciting time to be me, having launched our last huge renovation, and as we prepare for the downtown library project. My 2 years as a board member was really key in my ability to get up to speed so fast. Fortunately, I had a great working relationship with Bruce for the past 2 years, and he trusted me and gave me access and explained things along the way. Technology skills were necessary during COVID when more college students and high school students than ever before across the country wanted to take summer classes and family summer programs. And with no training, my small staff had to move hundreds of courses and systems online. It was challenging but momentous to open higher education to so many new populations. It's an honor now to take what I learned then and apply it here to modernizing the Friends processes. Some of the low-hanging fruit already moved several paper-heavy processes completely digital and opened a lot more access to people to have like more transparency from the office. My favorite shows are Murder, She Wrote and Magnum PI, and every day I now get to be a private investigator. So after I crack the case, and I always do, it's a priority that I document my findings. So we're taking the first few steps culturally towards succession planning for the executive director office and all the positions in the Friends organization, which will build a lot more safety and stability for a long, successful future to come. Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your report. This, all good news. Okay, and exciting too. Great. Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Mention again, the goal for the Santa Cruz main branch library that I think you mentioned.
Financial goal?
Yes,
2 million.
I thought I heard that, but I was like,
Yeah.
did you hear, did I hear? It right?
Yeah,
Wow.
I've been doing that long enough now that I can say it to that. But we're feeling very confident. One of the things that Santa Cruz Gives learned was that while giving nationally is down 10%, it's flat in Santa Cruz County, which is a good thing, which means, no, we didn't get more, but we didn't get less. And so just the individual conversations we're having, but because we live in that environment, we are confident.
Okay. Well, it's ambitious, but we're gonna go for it. That's
We're
great.
going for it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great.
I just want to say condolences and best wishes to Bruce. I know
Oh,
he's
yeah.
going through a tough time and
Yeah.
really hope he's,
I can send you his personal email. He does read email if you would like.
that would be great. Thank you so much.
I'd be happy to.
Great,
And welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to the Library Advisory Committee report. There's none today. Okay. Then we'll go to consent calendar. Do we have any comments or questions from the board?
I'd like to talk about item J.
Okay. Do you want to remove that or you just want to comment or ask a question about it?
We'll follow the process. We can just remove it and talk about it at the end of the agenda.
Okay. Any other comments on the consent? So item J will move to the end of the regular agenda. I had a brief comment on item K, which is the move from hybrid meetings. I'm in favor of it at this point, but I do, and I know that people can submit comments or questions online. I know it's, I mean, before the meeting, I guess, but I know there's a problem with the technology of trying to keep it going. Is that the main issue?
The challenge is that to do both tasks, it requires 2 staff members.
Okay,
And so it's a nice thing for us. I mean, we've been happy to do it in COVID, but that we don't have duplication in our system in case somebody is out. So it makes it always kind of tough to make that promise that we can continue with this.
okay. I know that for some people, it's a convenience to be able to comment online, not have to travel. But I'm willing to see how it goes, and but I do think we may wanna, if depending on, we haven't had a lot of comment lately, so. But today, for example, we had a few people commenting online, and so I know it is convenient for the public, and if there is a big demand, we ought to revisit it, I think. Any other comments or questions? I will go for the public comment now on the consent agenda. There's no comments in the boardroom. Are there any online for the consent agenda?
I don't see any comments posted online.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item J, which is moved to the end of the regular agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is passed unanimously. We'll move to general business, elect the chair and vice chair for 2024. We'll go ahead and rotate that to Capitola and Santa Cruz. Any comment from the board on that? Any public comment in the room? Anything comment online?
There are no public comments on my end.
Okay, go ahead and take a motion.
I nominate Capitola as chair and Santa Cruz as vice chair for 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved unanimously. We'll go into item B, which is update on cost benefit analysis for administrative services.
So, what we were trying to achieve with this report is answer some of the questions that we had in our previous meeting, and those included reaching out to the jurisdiction, to see who might be available to be part of the team, specify more around the timeline, which we provided, and then also to kind of consider some of the other requests that the board had about potentially reaching out to some of the other JPAs to see if they want to also examine more thoroughly their needs. And so we added that to the timeline, if that is something that those JPAs wish to do, with the hope of bringing that back in May.
Okay. Anything else is, that's the end of the report?
That's, I mean, that's the, I think some of the key pieces,
Okay.
and then it includes in the timeline when the consultant will come back and formally publicly brief the board as well.
Right. Okay,
So it doesn't see its completion until, so they'll come back in the fall to brief the board, and then the completion will be early next year, 2025.
okay, any questions for the board?
So, so just so I understand, we'll be seeing an update at this board on the 7th of November. And then the complete project would show up in early 2025.
Correct.
Okay. And I have a question for the audience, actually. The current agreement for the MOE expires at the end of June 2025, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, to the extent that we can make it early 2025, like early, that probably will help those discussions, versus, April or May, 2025. So timeline, it's just getting kind of tight with some other sort of priorities. So I just want to put that out there so everyone's thinking about it. Because I do think that there's some potential interrelationships, and obviously these are big dollar figures for this organization, both of those.
The project team did have a conversation with Matrix, who's the consulting firm, to let them know about our budget schedule.
Okay,
So that's why we're trying to hit the early calendar year of 25 to be able to address the MOE discussion as well as prep for the next budget year.
great. I just wanted to make sure we were all,
Yeah, I think we talked about the February meeting is the target, but I would hope by fall we have an indication of where it's headed.
great.
And I think it will be concluded before then. It was just that the next board meeting wouldn't occur until February 2025. So that was what we were making the target for its conclusion, but if necessary, we can always seek earlier board meeting or a special board meeting.
Yeah, I think that these are kind of big issues, big long-term issues for this organization. So if we do need a special meeting to kind of get us another month, as one board member, I'd be in favor of that.
Okay. I'm sure we'd all be willing to do that, so. Any other questions or comment from board members? Any comments from the public, questions online?
Yeah, I think there was one online. It was
Okay.
Jesse Silva.
Okay,
You're allowed to speak.
Good morning. My name is Jessie Silva. I'm a librarian at Santa Cruz Public Libraries, and I'm the library's OE3 Mid-Management Union Steward. At the November 9th LJPA meeting, Chair Goldstein assured library staff that this study is not being done in order to pull library staff out of the city of Santa Cruz to be employed by another entity. I'd like this assurance to be put in writing, stating that the library staff are not going to get pulled out of the city of Santa Cruz to be employed by another entity. Both models 2 and 3 signify the very real possibility of pulling the library out of the city and making us employees of another entity. And this is concerning to me and many of my colleagues at the library. Model 3 proposes the library share administrative services with other JPAs. And my concern with this model and the concern of many library staff is that it is not clear who we would be employed by. What union representation would we have? This is a concern with Model 2 as well. So again, I'm requesting assurance in writing that library staff are not going to be pulled out of the city of Santa Cruz and employed by another entity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other comments?
I see no other online public comments.
Okay, so
I just.
I'll bring it back to the board. Yes, Director Legault.
So just a quick comment, Eric did reach out to Scotts Valley regarding, our interest in putting a member on the team, and we don't have anyone available to be on the team at this time. However, I'm happy to be a point of contact for the team, to reach out with any questions that you may have regarding the process or, the other JPAs, as we do participate in some, but not all. And so please reach out to me directly if you need anything from the city of Scotts Valley through that process.
Okay, thank you. Director Goldstein?
I don't see a description based on the public comment. I don't see a description of the different models that are being analyzed in the report. Is there somebody who can
It's at the top of page 105.
top of 105? It is right there. Oh, there we are.
Model 2 says the library would hire its own staff through the city. So I think that is indicating that the staff would continue to be city employees.
Yeah, okay, so let me just, I'm on the project team, so I will get an opportunity to get more thoroughly briefed on this through this process, but just to put into sort of my words, my interpretation of what these different models look like, number one would be status quo, my understanding. If anybody disagrees, please shake their head. Number two would probably mean that the library staff no longer would use Santa Cruz City HR, but instead would develop your own internal HR department and finance departments. And then number
But
three,
their staff would still be Santa Cruz.
but the staff would
employees.
still be Santa Cruz employees.
Mhm.
So
It would
everybody,
just change the reporting.
it would change the
structure.
reporting structure. So rather than reporting to the director of HR and the director of finance for those types of administrative support services, they would report to the library director. And then number three is a little bit of an out of the box idea, but it's again focused on those services that are currently provided through the Department of Finance, Department of HR at the city of Santa Cruz, and see about maybe some other way that those services could be provided potentially through in partnership with other JPAs. So none of these options are talking about librarian staff who are in the library. This is talking about staff who currently work in Santa Cruz City Hall. So I know that there's a lot of concern around that, but I think a shared understanding of what these models actually are about is really important. So I hope that helps, and I hope I didn't screw something up in that summary. And if I did, please, Director Howard, please correct me.
That's, I think, an accurate representation of what we've been discussing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think the only nuance is in any option, depending upon the suite of services, there's going to be systems such as payroll, human resources, that I don't think the library system has the financial means to stand up. So that would still have to be provided through something like either the city of Santa Cruz or another mechanism. And I also think there will always be some consultative work with human resources and financial expertise. I also don't know that the library system can wholesale do every HR function or every financial function. Maybe it will be possible, and that's what the study will bear out. But I also would caution that there's probably some level of support that you may need from the city of Santa Cruz County, whomever that stock might be.
Yeah, no, I think that's good.
Okay, so we're ready for recommended action, which is to adopt the timeline provided below and the actions required to complete the cost benefit analysis of administrative services for the library.
I would move the staff recommendation, with just the one caveat that it says that we would get the update in November and then complete work on the project for our February 2025 meeting. That if those schedules can be moved up, and we need a special meeting, then I would be in support of that as well. So that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. And so we'll go on to the next item, which is budget considerations for fiscal year 24-25. We'll go ahead and have staff report.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start by saying, we are in a good, stable, spot financially right now. What I'm trying to think through with this report is recognizing first that the past, is not the best indicator of potential future trends for us, because things have been so variable over the past 5 years, from everything from COVID to our building construction project. So this Sunday marked the first time in years that we've had all 10 branches open. And so we've been watching how many people we bring on board, staff-wise. So now we are getting to the point that we've also never been to before, which is to be fully staffed. And so I'm reflecting on 4 pressures on our budget that will be coming down the pike. It includes those escalated costs from staffing. It also includes the extra costs for having the 10 facilities open at once. The potential escalated costs for administrative services, and the other costs that we are looking at that continue to escalate as well. So we have a very healthy reserve, and we are looking to hire a consultant who can help us look at the numbers in terms of where our operations are currently, and down the road, what operating as we are, what this may mean for our future. And so I think this is an important time to kind of do that reflection, and then bring back to the board once that concludes with some recommendations. And I have some preliminary thoughts on what we may have to do, but until we have that consultant review that, and we really dive into our upcoming budget, I'm not making a particular recommendation at this time.
Okay, does that conclude your report?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. I had a question. I noticed that we're all dealing with benefit cost increases, and PERS is going up again this year. I was just wondering, and from the city of Santa Cruz perspective, what percentage of our employees are in PEPRA versus COSIC? Do you know what, just
I
offhand?
do not know that percentage off the top. I can get that to you.
Okay, that would be good to know, because that kind of gives you a view of when costs will start to stabilize in PERS. I know ours in the county is already between, we have a tier 2 and then we have Petra, and between the two, it's almost 60% of our employees are now either Petra or tier 2. And when we look at the ongoing cost increases projected out in about 5 years, the costs, it'll continue moderate increases for 5 years and then it levels out. And then by 10 years, it actually starts dropping really significantly. And so it'd be good to, that would be an interesting model here as well, because it's going to play into it's one of the big drivers of the constant cost increases that we experience. Any other questions from board members?
Well, I'd like to hear Director Goldstein's thoughts on the third pressure that's talked about the Sunday hours at the Capitola branch. In August, we discussed extending that for 6 months. And so is that something you're asking for us to weigh in on at this point?
Thank you. Yes, we made that decision, the board did, in August, as you said. We never identified a particular metric for what success would look like after 6 months. That was one concern of mine, but making what we did signal was if we continue with that service on Sunday, after 6 months, we would make a commitment for benefited staff. And so I believe that at this time, my recommendation is to hold off on that process. And instead, we'll be looking in the new fiscal year, doing the research for a new strategic plan. And I would really recommend that either the new director or a consultant do an analysis of needs for the county and make a determination for hours and look at where those needs are across the county to make that determination for us for a long-term plan.
Okay, but you're not proposing any changes now?
I'm only proposing that after that 6-month period of using the temp staff, that we then retire that service on Sunday and not make the commitment that we were planning to go forward with, which was to do a recruitment for creating new positions to support the Sunday service.
So by that would mean that the Sunday service would essentially stop before the end of this fiscal year.
Yes.
So my preference.
Or no, sorry. We timed it with the opening of Aptos. So since we opened Aptos now, February, March, April, May, June, so we would have continued it through July.
I'm sorry, so
we will continue it through July.
okay. So my preference would be that, I think this is there's a large question here, right? Is what's the financial state in the long term for the library? And it's been something for those of you who've been on this board or followed this board for a while, has been something that we've talked about a lot during the budget cycle. When we adopt budgets, it seemed to spend more than we're receiving in revenue, and yet, at the end of the year, we end up with fund balance. So trying to get a handle on kind of the long-term projections, I think, is really important. And obviously, our costs are so much driven by staffing and how many people we have. So I completely understand your decision. I think what I would ask for as part of our budget is a little bit of analysis around kind of what Sunday service we could offer in maybe more of a kind of a just analytical standpoint, like, within our existing budget, we could make available 4 FTE. And then let's look at the metrics, and say, okay, is it 4 FTE in Maine? And is that the place where we should say that's where the Sunday service in this county is? Or is there another way we could do it? And I can imagine other systems where we say, okay, geographically, let's say we take those 4 FTE, we split them up. We have 2 up in the north, 2 down in the south, or 2 in the central part of the county. And that means that everybody has a library that's closer to them on Sundays that they could use, or maybe that doesn't make sense. But just trying to present that information in the course of the budget so this board can look at kind of the pros and cons of different approaches to how we might provide service Sunday. I certainly appreciate in Capitola that, Capitola has gotten the Sunday service. And maybe when we look at the metrics and we look at sort of equity and geography and everything else, it makes sense to continue it, or maybe it doesn't. But that would be my ask for part of the budget. I know we can't make that decision now, but I think that information would help this board kind of chart out a course. And I also want to be clear that I think the course we would be charting is through the completion of Maine. When Maine opens, and I don't know what the timeline is on that, that will change the game again. But I don't think that's going to happen in the next, 2 or 3 years. So we need a plan between now and then about how we best do this within the financial constraints that we have. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I think, well, to clarify, and I think there's a couple considerations just beyond budget, as you alluded to, where my preference would be to wait until somebody with that expertise can come in and do that analysis. So what is the density of the population in the different regions? What is the accessibility to those locations? Downtown also, to where this is not a budgetary question, but has multiple resources that we don't have at any of the other branches. And to put all those pieces together and do that analysis we can certainly make the attempt and run those costs for you and look at some different models. That is something we could definitely do, and we can make our best attempt at reviewing those questions that I think hover over this. So we can do that. That's what you're looking for. I think it would benefit us to have a deeper analysis done by someone from the outside to kind of review those larger questions, which we wouldn't be able to get done in time for the May board meeting when we bring the budget to you.
Okay, well, one option that may help streamline the work is to the extent that there's quantitative analysis. I can imagine a complicated GIS analysis, looking at population and drive times to libraries, and that might take a lot. Alternatively, I can imagine a relatively simple analysis where we just say, okay, there's so many people in the city of Santa Cruz, in the San Lorenzo Valley, and in Scotts Valley, and in the central part of the county, and, sort of give us more of a qualitative analysis, like, this alternative would have 2 pluses, this one would have 1 plus, this one would have a minus, things like that. So I'm not necessarily asking for a sort of deep dive, deep analytical analysis here, but just sort of like, okay, from the library's perspective, these are the pros and cons based on these different metrics of different ways of skinning the cat, if you will.
So I have one other comment as you're working on the 24-25 budget, and that's related to, I guess the first paragraph on the top of page 109, regarding considering freezing or converting positions. So, it's a little concerning, I understand the pressures of we're opening all these new branches. We need to be able to staff those branches, right? And so I think that's where the long-term forecast piece is really important. Look forward to hearing the budget presentation in May, but I would be hesitant to support freezing or converting positions at this point while we're really just still in that rebuilding phase. So we'll look forward to kind of seeing how the budget shapes up and fund balances are impacted. But that would, my preference would be to not have to freeze or convert positions while we're still just trying to get all of the branches fully staffed. And then I have one more question about the consultant for the long-term financial forecasting. So has a consultant been identified? What's the process and the timeline of trying to have that work completed?
I'm working with the city's finance department with a consultant that they currently use to review that. And so we do anticipate, if we can go through that process, that they offered it should provide us with conclusions before we meet again in May.
Oh, great. That'll be helpful.
Okay, another question?
I do have another question sort of requested for budget consideration is that I know we received some communication about the annex in Live Oak. And I'll be honest, I don't have I know in the JPA, we talked about that this board unanimously approved this change in service levels, and I don't remember exactly sort of the status of Live Oak. And so maybe if we could get kind of a recap on what the board has agreed to with Live Oak and where we're at, that would be helpful, because I don't remember exactly kind of, I know Aptos has always been part of the system, and it's, it's tied contractually between the city of Capitola and Scotts Valley and county. But just the annex situation, I don't remember exactly where we are, and so kind of a refresher on the history of sort of where we are and what we've agreed to, what the plan is, that would be helpful as part of the budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? We'll go ahead and take public comment. Any comment on the budget presentation? Public, anything online?
Online, so yeah, Judy has sent in a message requesting that her email be read out loud.
Okay,
So, I'll go the clerk will read it out.
okay,
In the JPA agenda packet, budget considerations for 24-25, Mr. Howard discusses pressures on the budget, which might necessitate that the library system has to scale back some services in the future, such as open hours on Sundays. He notes the cost of operating quote-unquote all 10 buildings. Missing from this discussion are costs associated with the Live Oak Annex, an 11th facility. Is the county going to fully fund staffing other than when librarians are there to present programs, maintenance, including landscaping costs and operation, utilities, janitorial services, etc., equipment replacement or furnishing? I also saw a reference to quote-unquote support a new collection for the annex. I would like more details on that decision. Thank you, Judy Gunstra.
She did have a follow-up comment just saying, please speak to the possibility of adding books or other materials to the Live Oak Annex, size of collection, types of materials.
okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
There are no other public comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and I'm sure during the budget presentation, we'll discuss Live Oak at that time, as well as all the other issues that were raised by the board today. There's no action on this item, so we'll go ahead and move on. So that brings to conclusion the regular items, except for item J from the consent agenda. So we'll go ahead and open that now. This is a recommendation for each jurisdiction to appoint someone within their jurisdiction to be responsible for updating Library Advisory Commission information on their jurisdiction's webpage to include how potential members can apply for a vacancy and the process for filing the vacancy. Do you have any comments from staff on that? I know that there was a comment, I think we received it at the county complaining that the Advisory Commission was not on our website and that they didn't know how to reach it. So they asked that it would be good if all the cities and the county placed that commission on their website with their other commission openings. So I believe that was a comment that we received from the public.
Yeah, and that was what this is a response to, and also just kind of us reviewing the links on the jurisdictions. They're not always up to date. And so we're just trying to get some tighter coordination there.
Okay, Director Goldstein.
Yeah, so can you remind me how people get appointed to the Library Advisory Commission?
Well, each jurisdiction does that appointment.
So Capitola, the county, we actually make the appointment. Okay. Okay, so what you're proposing essentially is that the library, and I think I'm just restating the staff report here, but the library would maintain a LAC webpage that talks about duties, responsibilities, memberships, and terms. And then And then what you're proposing is that you would notify each city when a term is up. And then that city would then advertise the availability to serve, accept applications through our own process. We would develop our own, each individual application, or
I do believe that I need to confirm this, that each jurisdiction does have their own different process for this.
yeah. Okay, and so we would just use our own sort of border commission application form. But I think the key here then, I was just trying to get a handle on it. I couldn't remember exactly, because sometimes jurisdictions nominate and then, city selection appoints, or they nominate and then this board appoints, but it's actually appointments from the different jurisdictions. And so I think the only ask then I would have, because it sounds like a good process you're proposing, is just to make sure that the clerk for the LAC notifies the jurisdiction, 6 months might be a little too far ahead of time, but 3 months ahead of a pending vacancy, or when a vacancy becomes available, if there's a resignation. And then we would then be able to say, we have an appointment coming up at the LAC. For more information about the LAC, see the library's website. To apply, click here, and it takes somebody into our application process. So that's kind of what you guys are envisioning.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a clean process. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this item? Any public comment? None in the room? Anything online with public comment on this? Yes.
There is one from Judy. She says, recent City of Santa Cruz LAC2 vacancies only appeared on the city's website about a month ahead of the date at which the city was going to make the appointment. Why the hurry? The LAC wasn't meeting until April. More time was needed for potential applicants to apply.
Okay, thank you for that public comment. Bring it back to the board, and we'll need a recommendation to approve staff recommendation.
Okay, so I would move staff recommendation, I guess, with just one addition is that the LAC clerk notifies the jurisdictions 3 months ahead of a pending vacancy, or as soon as possible when an unexpected vacancy occurs. Just so that we know, because otherwise I think the jurisdictions wouldn't necessarily know about vacancies coming up.
Okay, second, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And you've got the motion, okay? Yes, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is passed unanimously. And do we have anything else? I think that's the end of the agenda, right? Let me see.
No comments by board members.
Oh, okay, yes. Do we have any? Oh, yeah. Do we have any comments by board members? We don't. The next scheduled meeting is at 9 a.m. at Scotts Valley Branch Library on May 4th.
And Chair,
Yes.
we've moved the next meetings back to Aptos.
Okay,
So this was supposed to be
okay.
next time around, but
Okay.
now we've made the switch.
So it'll be May 4th at the Aptos Branch Library.
Yes,
All right, yeah.
and I just want to confirm, is it May 4th or May 2nd? It is 4th, okay.
Okay. Okay, and that is the end of our meeting, so we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.